Okay, welcome. Today I want to talk about dream work, using dream work to heal from trauma, PTSD, and complex trauma. So enjoy. Okay, so it's a lovely day today. It's kind of rained heavily yesterday, and I was just reflecting on what to talk about for today's video. So I put a video up on YouTube and Facebook um, every Wednesday. I also do podcasts now as well, which I'm interviewing someone today, which will go up Friday, which is about what Eton was like and how that affects leadership. But the idea for me is I want to speak about dreams, because in my own journey of healing complex trauma, I worked with a Jungian analyst, and she got me to write down my dreams. So I started to analyze them, and she was analyzing them to see the shifts and the changes. So I thought today what I'd do is share a little bit about my own journey, but also for, if you want to learn how to start remembering your dreams, to start teaching you that. And also, I'll start on the interpreting, but I'm doing a men's circle tomorrow night. And then what I'll do is I will eventually upload. If you put down below if you're interested in learning about dreams, then I will upload a course that you can download on my website, but you'll need to put it in the comments just to see if there's interest or not. So I was reading through this book today, Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, and he's talking about healing PTSD and just saying the importance of sleep and also dreams. And then I have been preparing for the men's circle tomorrow night, and I've been reading and researching this book here, which is essentially the grail when it comes to dream work, Inner Work by Robert A. Johnson, and I'll leave it a link in the bottom of the video to that. And my own experience was, so I started writing down my dreams in about 2002. So I basically, if you've heard my journey before, I was really struggling, thinking I was going insane, struggling with addictions, alcohol, basically suicidal. I'd been without a home for a number of months as well. And yeah, I went to a retreat centre where I started to write my dreams down. And that kind of brought me, and I just remembered one of the dreams there, actually, from 2002, was me driving on a road, but I couldn't drive. So I'm trying to drive this car, but I can't control it. And that was a bit my life. So if we look at analysis, that was a bit my life at the time. I was just out of control, really. It was like I was trying to drive, but I was doing a very poor job. So fast forward, so that was beginning of 2002. Then I started working with this Jungian analyst, and I started writing my dreams down. And I would wake in the middle of the night and I would write them down. Maybe an hour or two I'd wake, but because of the trauma I'd been through at boarding school and early life, I had so many dreams, and they were horrific at the beginning. For the first few years, they were really, really powerful, like I was being shot at, murdered, all of this stuff. And yeah, so most nights I'd wake up crying. But the thing is until that point I started to work on my dreams, I hadn't cried for 15 years since going to boarding school. I hadn't cried. Maybe once or twice, but they were really forced tears. But when I started to work on my dreams and write them down, it was like my unconscious realized I was listening, and it started to allow this stuff to come up and these tears, and there was so much grief there, so much grief, and that's to be aware if you start to do dream work that stuff can come up, but otherwise that stays in our unconscious. So the idea with dream work is that the unconscious is trying to tell us messages all the time through our dreams, and the conscious mind can only process so much information at the time. That is why we go in and we look at our dreams and we try and understand them, so we understand what's going on in the unconscious. The conscious mind can process 30 bits of information at any given time. The unconscious, 3 million. So therefore, you really want to understand your unconscious. And, I was doing talk therapy until I started working on my dreams. And 2-3 years, nothing really was working. Then I started to work with my dreams, and it was like, boom, something shifted. I started to change. My own journey now, I've written down over 1,000 dreams. I haven't analysed them all. And, the process of trying to remember your dreams. So I'll just go through those steps. So the first thing is have a journal by your bed and a pen. Also a lamp, because then you can turn the light on. And in the night, we go through different stages. Deep sleep, where we don't dream, which is when we're in delta. And then in theta, is it theta? Sorry, I'm confused now. Beta, alpha. Yeah, deep dreamless sleep is, delta. And then theta, that's when we're more having the dreams. So we kind of, if you have a dream, it's to at the beginning to actually turn your light on. And it's like training yourself and saying to your unconscious, okay, I'm listening now, unconscious, please show me some dreams. And what happens is that as you start to pay attention, you will start to remember your dreams. Your dreams will become more vivid. It's a bit like if you're talking to, if you've got a child there and you just ignore them, they become silent. Whereas if you're really engaged, then they become engaged. And it's the same with our unconscious. If you, as the conscious mind, start to pay attention, it goes, boom, hey, and for me, it was like the grief kind of came up when I started to listen. So that's, to do that. And some people say have, a pint of water before bed. And then you wake, you need a wee in the night. And then I did that last night. I had quite a bit to drink before bed. And then I woke up in the night and it was like, oh, what was I dreaming? And you ask yourself that question. And at that moment, you can just write a couple of lines down. And then in the morning, as soon as you get up, you write down again. You go into more detail. What actually happened in your dream. If you struggle to remember your dreams, it's just a case of keep persevering. It's like training yourself. It's like, oh, I can't be bothered, or I'll remember. Often we don't remember our dreams in the morning. That's why at the beginning it's important to wake ourselves up and write a few notes down. I mean, last night I remember my dreams, but as I start to write them down more regularly, they become more conscious. So I can remember them now, but I remembered it when I woke up, and now they're there. My next process is I've not written them down, but I will do that. So that's how you remember your dreams, and you just get into that space. Now, I wouldn't say to analyze all of them, because it's quite a big process. But if you have one which is very powerful, tears, or it's like, whoa, one you definitely remember, and maybe you have one from the last year or two that you definitely remember, it's write it down. Now, the 4 steps, according to Robert Johnson, are, how are we doing time-wise? So it's about 10 minutes. The first thing is we make associations. Second thing is connecting the dream image to inner dynamics. Third stage is interpreting. And the fourth stage is doing rituals to make the dream concrete. And I think if you do it with all your dreams, it's a lot, but maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks, you do a deep dream interpretation. So you go down and go, right, okay. So I had one about me swimming across a lake. So the idea with the first step is you work out what your associations are. So I'm swimming across a lake, and there's an old couple, and their boat is sinking, and I help them get the boat out of the water. So what we then do is all those characters, we do line by line, we write down, right, old couple, what does that mean? The association, just what first comes to my mind. Okay, elderly, wisdom. It's like you write these things down. What's water? Okay, so that could be emotions. It could be the unconscious. We write these things down, and we make as many associations as possible. So that's the first step. Then the second step is we connect the dream image to inner dynamics. So for example, for me, an elderly couple, wisdom, it's like, where is wisdom in my life? If you find that thing which really resonates with you, so it might be wisdom, or where is that in my life at the moment? What am I doing? Yeah, I'm trying to cultivate wisdom. I'm trying to learn stuff. It's like, right. If there's someone who's really angry in the dream, it's like, where am I being angry? We kind of have to be quite honest with ourselves, like, what's coming up for me? And then the third stage is we interpret it. It's like, okay, so me swimming across a lake, it's like me swimming across the unconscious. Me, and I've not interpreted this yet, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But it's this idea that I swim to the other side. So it's like me traversing my unconscious and meeting this meeting wisdom. So we interpret it, and it might take us a few weeks to keep coming back to go, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then the fourth stage is then we do a ritual. So maybe we see in the dream that we're being hateful to old people. So it's like, for me, it'd be, I'm being hateful of that part of myself, the wise part. That might be an interpretation. So it's like, right, okay. The ritual would be, I'm going to sit down every day and learn stuff. I'm going to cultivate my wisdom. Or I'm going to go and study with a teacher. And I commit to doing that ritual. And it might be, in Robert Johnson's book, he talks about this person who realizes he's just eating lots of junk food, hanging out with people who don't feed him. So he says his ritual was to go and buy a meal from a junk food restaurant and then bury it in his garden, dig a hole and bury it. And for him, that ritual helped to transform him. He kind of cleaned up his eating habits and also his friendships. So, those are really the four steps. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail on a short video like this, but I will go into probably an hour or two presentation on my website. But if you're interested in learning more, then eventually when I've done it and put it up, I will upload it and let you know, and I'll put it in the description below. So if you've got any questions about dreams or anything about trauma, so to finish, it's like, by doing that work with the dreams, it was like, as Bessel van der Kolk, it's like I was integrating parts of myself that I couldn't with the conscious mind. I was starting to integrate myself. And the work I do with people with matrix re-imprinting and EFT, it's like that's the same thing. We're going into the childhood and we're integrating. We're finding resolution. That's what's happening with the dream work. We are integrating those parts of ourselves to create meaning and therefore healing. So after a few years of doing this dream work, obviously I was living in a monastery, I was doing therapy, there was many things I was doing, yoga, etc. But after a few years I came out the other side of the trauma. I stopped self-harming, stopped trying to commit suicide, started taking care of myself, So that was the transformation that I had through, doing dream work. So yeah, if you have any questions, then please do let me know. Okay, many blessings.